everybody, it is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another video over here on That's Comical, and if you happen to be watching and it's a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. Well, here we are, everybody, another episode of Stats, Trends, and Picks. It is definitely a very interesting time for comics, especially as we head on into the holiday season. And let's go right into the numbers. We had a pretty strong month. I was a little bit nervous as to how many comics I was going to be buying. I think at one point in time we were looking at a possibility of 70 plus, but as I anticipated, there were going to be some books that were rescheduled and some that were pushed back, and we ended up with a total of 66 books. And DC ended up on top merely because of the fact that they just started their big event of DCKO, and I will say that it is off to a really exciting and fun start. I am definitely not bored with what I am reading, and I'm hoping that it continues its momentum. But right behind it is the other conglomerate. They've been firing on all cylinders, especially over at Dynamite and M.A.S.K Studios, and right behind them is Image, no doubt because of the Energon and the Ghost Machine universe, just to name a few, and Marvel is still right behind them. And I will still say I have actually been taking a look at some of the things that Marvel is offering in 2026, and there is absolutely nothing that is exciting me, and I also do believe that when DCKO is officially done, as well as the Marvel Ultimate Universe, I think I'm going to be done mostly with the big two, just because of the fact that it's also just too much money. I've been spending a lot of money this past year on a lot of good comic books, and I really need to make some major sacrifices, and outside of what was announced at New York Comic Con with what's going to be happening after the DC All-In initiative, which is called DC Next Level, there are two titles that definitely excite me that I will check out, but those are just going to be the only things that I look at outside of any possible miniseries from DC or Marvel, and I may not even be interested in those either. They've really got to impress me. Let's take a look at the percentages. Yes, almost 35% of my purchasing went to DC. Right after that, just a little under 29% with the other conglomerate, 24% from Image, and 12% in Marvel, and of course there is the graph. It is going to be a very interesting race to the finish line with the top three over there, and I don't foresee Marvel doing anything, and I do believe at one point in time Marvel is just going to go to zero, and truthfully, I'm not upset about that. They've let me down far too much. There's a whole bunch of comics that I bought in the recent 5 years that I wish that I didn't. And at this point in time, because of how so many people do not care for Marvel, it is going to be impossible for me to get rid of them. And just throwing books that I bought into the garbage just doesn't seem worth it to me. So I guess I'm just going to have to hold them in my house as dead weight. So how did we fare in October of 2025? Pretty darn good, guys. There was a lot to be excited about, and some of my predictions were correct. So, for the first week of October, and let's also remember that it was a 5-week new comic book month, I was anticipating the big comeback from the Image Ghost Machine universe. Rook Exodus, issue number 7 by Jeff Johns, and beautiful artwork from Jason Fabok to be the number 1, and even though it was a phenomenal return to form, it ended up not being my top pick of the week, and that went over to M.A.S.K Studios and Speed Racer number 3 by David Pepose, and I am just going to say this. Speed Racer, I had such high hopes, and David Pepose answered the call with such a fun, high-octane comic. 3 issues in, and I am absolutely loving this title, and I have already gotten an opportunity to take a look at issue number 4, and let me just say, the hype is very real for this book. This book may end up being my favorite book of 2025. We will see. For the second week of October, I predicted correctly, and I thought it was going to go to the brand new age of the Energon universe with Transformers issue number 25 from Robert Kirkman and beautiful artwork from Dan Mora. What I really loved about this issue was it really was a passing of the torch. It started with some amazing artwork from Jorge Corona and Mike Spicer, and then went straight to Dan Mora in a very 80s cartoon manner. But the biggest thing that excited me was the fact that the Energon universe is extending, and we have another classic 80s franchise joining the Energon universe, and that, of course, is M.A.S.K. I was so excited to see that this is happening, and I cannot wait to see how they're going to play in this Energon universe, and more importantly, I'm even more excited for the title if it actually comes in 2026. For the third week of October of 2025, I went back to the Energon universe and gave it to the conclusion of the second story arc of Josh Williamson's G.I. Joe, issue number 12. So excited for the fact that we're going to be getting a bi-monthly G.I. Joe now in the Dreadnought War, and even more excited to see how the paths of all of the franchises that are part of the Energon universe are going to tie in together. For the fourth week of October 2025, this was a doozy because I didn't know what was going to get the number one spot. There were 4 choices that I had, and they are all fantastic. All but one was from Image Comics. Says a lot, guys. And it ended up going to just one title. There were no ties, and it went to Image Comics, Robert Kirkman and David Finch's Skinbreaker, issue number 2. Issue number 1 was wonderful, but issue number 2 just made this title even more exciting. I really did not anticipate the story to go where it went, and I'm even more curious to see where it's going to go with issue number 3. And for the final week of October of 2025, Halloween weekend, I did play it safe, and I was right to play it safe. I gave it to Image Comics once again, Tony Fleeks and Trish Forstner's Feral issue number 17. This was just a big wow, everybody. I am dying to see where this story is continuing to go. I remember when we were talking about this at the early stages, me and my colleagues over here at That's Comical. We weren't sure how long this title was going to last, or more importantly, how long we were going to stay on this title. I said I was going to give it at least to issue number 25, but based on where we are already with issue number 17, this is a story that I do not want to end right now. It is just so intense, so dramatic, so action-packed, and every issue it just leaves me wondering what is going to happen next. So that is going to wrap up October of 2025. What are things looking like in November of 2025? Well, besides the holiday season right around the corner and things getting colder, we're definitely excited for the comics that are coming. So here are my predictions for my top picks. Like I said, I've had the opportunity to take a look at a sneak preview of Speed Racer issue number 4 over at M.A.S.K Studios, once again from David Pepos. This is my predicted top pick for the first week of November, and now that I've checked it out, I'm really curious to see if anything's going to beat it, because issue number 4 was already... I haven't even got... Just so you guys know, I haven't even gotten my first week's worth of comics yet. I have still yet, on the time of recording this video, to get to my local comic book store and pick up my books for this week. So, I'm really curious to see what is going to possibly beat Speed Racer number 4. I don't know if anything will. For the second week of November 2025, I've got a very interesting pick for myself. I didn't even know that this was coming. Rob Liefeld is returning to Image Comics with Youngblood once again. He is doing the artwork and he's writing the story. So I read the first 10 issues of Youngblood back in the 1990s, and revisiting it, it is definitely not the greatest stuff that I ever read. But is it fun to look at? Yes. Is Rob Liefeld's art fantastic? Of course it is. So knowing that he has officially gone back to his original solo Image Comics franchise, the first franchise that hit Image Comics when it was created back in 1991, I am anticipating something truly special from Rob Liefeld, and probably a great deal of improvement of him as a writer. For the third week of November 2025, I am going to be giving it back to Image Comics and giving it to Rick Remender's The Sacrificers, issue number 17. Based on what I am reading, I think we are officially reaching the end. I think this may in fact be the final story arc of The Sacrificers. And if it is, let me just say that this was probably one of the most amazing comics that I read in the last 5 years. So excited to see how this possible final story arc is going to end and how Rick Remender is going to stick the landing. And for the final week of November 2025, while we're all filling up on turkey and all the trimmings, I don't know what my top pick is going to be. I'm giving it a possible three-way tie because 3 of my favorite titles are all coming out that week. Will it be going to Escape number 4 from Rick Remender? Will it go to Skinbreaker 3 from Robert Kirkman? Or will it go to Feral issue 18 from Fleeks and Forstner? I don't know. Because all 3 of these titles, outside of Speed Racer and just a couple of others, are the strongest titles that I'm reading right now. So I don't know which one of these is going to come out on top. Yes, to a certain degree, I am playing it safe just because I love all 3 of these titles so much, but we will see if all 3 end up being number 1, or if it will be just one that comes out on top. So that's going to be my stats, trends, and picks for October of 2025. I'm really hoping to hear what you guys read in October 2025. Did I miss anything? What are you looking forward to in November of 2025? And I'm hoping that you're all looking forward to a great start to our holiday season. And I will see you in the next one.